But in the concluding part of this lecture, I freely confess there is a broader objective to the foundation. The foundation will expressly not be about chucking faith into some doctrinal melting pot. It's not about losing our own distinctive faith. It is about learning, living and working with others of a different faith. But it will also be concerned with promoting the idea of faith itself as something dynamic, modern, and full of present relevance. For religion to be a positive force for good, in my view, it must be rescued not simply from extremism, faith as a means of exclusion, but also from irrelevance. An interesting part of our history maybe, but not part of our future. Too many people see religious faith as represented in stark dogmatism and empty ritualism. Faith is then reduced to a system of strange convictions and actions that to some can appear far removed from the necessities and the anxieties of ordinary life. It is this faith that gives militant secularism an easy target. It mocks certain of the practices and traditions of organized religion, which they define as faith. Faith is to be found in the cassocks and the gowns and the rituals. Reading the Dawkins book, The God Delusion, I'm struck by how much the militant secularist and the religious extremist need each other. The God Delusion is a brilliant polemic, but rests entirely, as does the more reasonable The Blind Watchmaker, on the view that those who believe in God believe in him as a means of exclusion, as a frightening, irrational piece of superstition and mumbo-jumbo, which then justifies the unjustifiable. To be fair, people of this view do respect some of what is done in the name of faith, but believe it could be done and done better in the name of humanity without the encumbrance of faith. Now, I agree, you don't need to be religious to be good. A true statement, but which itself often then becomes one that can exclude religion from the idea of doing good. A very different proposition. For the less militant secularists, the notion of faith is at best harmless but misguided, and the role of religion at best expressed in beautiful churches, in religiously inspired art, in all the history and culture of countries when religion was dominant. This aesthetic or historical view of religious faith sees faith as an interesting part of our tradition, but with little or no contemporary relevance. And again, I agree, belief in God can be about the tradition, superstition, or fear. How many of us make promises to God when frightened, only to forget them when the danger passes? But if that were all that faith was, it would never have lasted or deserved to last. So why, despite it all, does faith persist? Why has it not disappeared with the advent of modern science and technology? Why, despite all the aspects of organized religion and unorganized religion that put people off, does religious faith continue to be a focal point for millions as to how they lead their lives? Why does it continue to inspire works of supreme self-sacrifice and selflessness? This is because, along with all the doctrine and ideology, the practice and the ritual, at the core, faith represents a profound yearning within the human spirit. Indeed, it is why we talk about the Spirit. Faith answers to the basic, irrepressible, irresistible human wish for spiritual betterment, to do good, to think and act beyond the limitations of selfish human desires. More than that, it is rooted in a belief that the impulse to do good, or to try to, is not utilitarian or self-interested, but is about putting aside self in being aware of something bigger, more central, more essential to our human condition than self. In this, the other is not to be rejected, still less excluded, but to be embraced as more important than you or me. And people of faith believe that we are driven or guided to this end. For those who feel in this way, God is not some wise old man up in the sky, but the true source of life. God is selfless love, merciful, and an infinite dispenser of grace. Organized religion, seen in this light, is then not about arid ritual, but a collective demonstration of faith, a coming together of people who believe in the power of God's mercy and love, who believe that it is of universal application, and who in coming together symbolize that communion with God and with fellow human beings. In this way, faith guides our lives, knowing our weakness, yet granting us strength. Faith connects and corrects in a necessary and vital way the tendency that humankind has to relativism. Faith says there are absolutes, like the inalienable worth and dignity of every human being, that can never be sacrificed. It gives true moral fibre. We err, we do wrong, we sin, but at least we know it and we feel the compunction to do better and the need to seek God's forgiveness. Faith in this way is a living and growing belief, not stuck in one time in history, but moving with time, with reason, with knowledge, informed by scientific and technological discovery, not in antithesis to them, as well as directing those discoveries towards humane ends. Faith in this way is not something separate from our reason, still less from society around us, but integral to it, giving the use of reason purpose, and society a soul, and human beings a sense of the divine. This is the life purpose that cannot be found in constitutions, speeches, stirring art, or rhetoric. It is a purpose uniquely centered around kneeling before God. For those of us of faith, this, at any rate to me, is what it means. And whilst we should not foist our belief on others, we should not be ashamed either to assert our faith and be proud of it. For us, faith is not an historical relic, but a guide for humanity on its path to the future, and a faithless world, not one in which we want ourselves or our children to live. So, if people of different faiths can coexist happily in mutual respect and solidarity, so can our world. And if faith takes its proper place in our lives, then we can live with a purpose beyond self, supporting humanity on its journey to fulfillment. Thank you.